The sun was very hot that day, shining strongly upon the large, flat prairie until the air itself looked wobbly like glass. Every piece of dry grass bent from the heat, and every dark area seemed to go away under the bright light. For many hours the land had been quiet, but then 3 people came out slowly from the trees, pulling their tired bodies into the open. They were women, with bare feet, worn out, their dresses just torn cloth covered with dirt and blood. One held her arm across her chest as if keeping broken bones together. Another walked with a heavy limp so badly it looked as though every move might be her last. The third fell down onto the ground, trying hard to breathe. Her face was marked with blood and tears. From far away, the regular sound of hooves got louder. A single man on a horse came closer across the field, a dark shape against the bright sun. His name was Elias Stone, but everyone simply called him the Rancher. He was a man who spoke little, with wide shoulders, skin made tough by the weather, a sharp look that had seen both life and death too many times to count. His horse slowed down as it got near, and Elias got off, his boots going into the dry dirt. The scene in front of him made his jaw tighten. The women looked like they had been pulled through a bad place. Bruises covered their arms and faces. The youngest held her stomach tight as though something inside her had been broken. Their eyes wide open, empty and shaking, told him everything before they said one word. The woman on the ground spoke quietly in a rough voice, her lips cracked and dry. We were the prize." Elias stopped. He knew exactly what she meant. The bad men who moved around this area, the gang started because of the war. Men who had nothing left but fighting had turned unkindness into a game. They stole from towns, shot travelers, and when the blood was dry, they took their gifts. Women became trophies, a prize for the man who rode fastest, killed quickest, or burned the most. It was their wrong rule. And somehow, by strong will and being desperate, these 3 had gotten away. But Elias also knew that getting away in the Wild West meant only one thing. The men chasing them were close behind. He bent down by the fallen woman. His strong hands were surprisingly gentle as he touched her head. Her heartbeat was weak, but it was there. He looked up at the others. One held her dress close across her chest, shaking in shame and anger. The other kept looking back across the plains as if waiting for the devil himself to appear at any time. Elias's voice, low and gravelly, ended the silence. "How far behind?" The standing woman with light hair shook her head gently. "1 day, maybe less. They'll come. They always come." The rancher said nothing. He looked out across the far edge of the land where the earth met the burning sky. Any moment now, a line of dust could rise, the surest sign of riders. He knew the gang wouldn't give up, not on what they felt belonged to them. Elias had lived most of his life alone. The ranch was his world. Cows, fences, long nights by the fire. He once had a wife and a little girl who used to run without shoes through these same fields, but both were gone now, taken by sickness and the kind of pain a man never talks about. Since then, Elias had been a man with no real purpose, no reason to take out his gun unless it was for his animals or his land. And yet, standing there under the very hot sun, looking into the eyes of 3 hurt women, he felt the weight of something he had not held in years, a choice. He could leave, ride away, pretend he never saw them. In the West, every man was expected to mind his own business, but the words, "We were the prize," rang in his head like a bell. If he turned away now, he would not only be leaving these women to a bad end, he would be giving up what little of his own spirit he still had left. The rancher stood up straight. Dust brushed off his knees as his hand reached for the revolver at his hip. He pulled the round part free, checked the bullets, then slid it back in with a sound that seemed louder than thunder. Behind him, his horse stamped the ground, restless, as if feeling the storm coming from far away. The women watched him, torn between fear and hope. The youngest, still on the ground, whispered through cracked lips, "Please don't go." Elias's eyes, gray and sharp as steel, got smaller as he looked at the horizon. "I ain't going." The words were simple, but they carried a promise stronger than metal. As the sky opened up and the fields made soft sounds under the wind, The rancher knew this was the time that would change everything. He wasn't a policeman, he wasn't a rescuer, but he was the only line standing between the innocent and the men who thought being cruel was their right. And so, under the strong Texas sun, Elias Stone made a decision he could never take back. The women held each other, shaking but breathing more easily, as the rancher stepped forward, revolver at his side, shoulders straight toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, riders were coming, and when they got here, the prairie would know the sound of fairness or death. And so, the story began. The night came quickly on the plains, a sudden drop into darkness after the long stretch of hot daylight. The prairie wind blew strongly across the land, bringing with it the smell of dry grass and the faint cry of coyotes far away. Elias Stone had made a small fire beside his barn. The flames moved and popped, throwing shadows across the wooden posts in the dirty yard. The three women stayed close near the fire, wrapped in old wool blankets he had found inside his home. They sat in silence, their eyes wide, every sound from the wood making them jump as though it might be the sound of guns. Elias sat away from them, his back against the fence, a long hunting knife in one hand, a whetstone in the other. He moved the blade slowly, carefully, bright sparks shining in the firelight with each rub. Beside him lay his revolver, clean and ready, and his rifle leaned against the fence post. His horse stood quietly in the shadows, ears moving, nose up as if it too was waiting for what the night would bring. Finally, one of the women, the oldest, with gray in her dark hair, spoke. Her voice was soft, but in the silence it seemed to fill the air. "Why are you helping us? You don't even know our names." Elias's eyes didn't move from the blade. His voice was low, made rough by years of dust and sadness. "A man doesn't need to know a name to see what is right." The woman swallowed, staring at the fire. Others saw, others knew. They turned their backs. Elias stopped sharpening and looked into the flames. The memory of two faces appeared there. His wife, his daughter. They had been taken by illness years ago, a fever that spread through the county. He hadn't been able to save them. He'd put them in the ground with his own hands. That failure had followed every step since. He finally said, "I once had a family. I couldn't save them. I ain't failing again." The women said nothing more, but tears fell down their cheeks. For the first time in weeks, they felt the first feelings of safety. Not because they believed the bad men wouldn't come, but because someone had finally chosen to stand. By morning, the horizon carried the sound they all feared, the loud noise of hooves. Elias got up from where he sat, his tall shape dark against the light. He looked over the land with the eyes of a man who knew how to read it, and there it was, a line of dust, going up like a cut against the morning sky. They were coming. The women held each other, fear on every face. Elias put bullets in his rifle with slow, careful moves. Each bullet slid into the gun like the sound of a bell. He put on his revolver, checked the knife at his belt, and turned to him. "You stay low, stay quiet. When they ride in, you don't run, you don't yell. You let me do what I must." The youngest, the one who had fallen in the field, shook her head desperately. "They'll kill you. There are too many." Elias's voice was calm, solid as stone. "A man only dies one time, but if he dies for no reason, that's what matters. I plan to die for something important." The women fell silent. They watched him walk out into the yard, rifle in hand, shoulders straight as if he were walking into church. Moments later, the gang rode into view. 6 men, dirty from the trail, their eyes sharp with the hunger of wolves. They slowed their horses when they saw Elias standing there alone, blocking the barn. Laughter broke out among them, mean and mocking. The leader, a tall, strong man with scars down his cheek, spat into the dirt and spoke with disrespect. "Move, rancher. Those women aren't yours, never were. They're ours, and we've come to take back what belongs to us." Elias's grip got stronger on his rifle. His voice went across the yard, steady and firm. "They don't belong to you. They don't belong to anyone, not now." The leader's smile went away. He pushed his horse forward, eyes narrowing. "You have no part in this. Go away, and maybe we let you keep living." Elias pointed the rifle, the barrel catching the light in the morning sun. "I'm finished going away." The silence that followed stretched like a rope about to break. Then with a shout, the first bad man pulled his pistol. The loud noise of gunfire cut the morning, and the fight began. Elias fired first. His shot hit true, dropping the man straight from his saddle. Confusion started, horses stood up, bullets flew through the air, and the women yelled from behind the barn wall. Elias moved with the skill of a man who had lived too long with a gun in his hands. His rifle roared, then he switched to his revolver. Each shot was thought out, each pull of the trigger certain. But there were many of them. A bullet hit his shoulder, turning him back, but he closed his teeth hard and fired again. Another bad man fell. Dust went up thick around them, filling the air with smoke and sweat. The gang came closer, their angry words loud. Elias stumbled, blood covering his shirt, but his eyes never moved. He was a man with nothing left to lose, and men like that are the most dangerous of all. By the time the sun rose high enough to clear the mist away, the yard was covered with bodies. 5 bad men lay dead, the 6th running in fear, his horse kicking up dust as he vanished into the horizon. Elias stood swaying in the dirt, his revolver hanging empty, his chest moving up and down fast. Blood dropped from his side, his shoulder, his lip. He let go of the gun, and the silence that followed was heavier than any storm. The women ran to him, tears pouring, catching him before he fell. "You saved us," one whispered. "You gave us back our lives." Elias managed a small smile, his voice barely a whisper. "It's not saving, just making a choice. Don't waste what you've been given." He helped them onto his last good horse, putting the straps into their hands. He told them the road to town, where safety was, and he watched as they rode off toward freedom. They looked back once, their eyes full of thanks and sadness, but he only nodded, standing tall even with the blood soaking his shirt. When they disappeared into the horizon, Elias turned and walked back toward the well, his steps slow, regular. He had nothing left, no family, no future, but he had given up everything to give 3 souls a chance to live. For the first time in years, he felt peace. The rancher sat by the well, staring at the rising sun, and let the wind take away the last sound of hooves. And in that silence, he finally understood. Though the world had taken everything from him, his soul was his again.